The stars above Earth were calm, quiet, and filled with secrets. But that peace shattered the moment the Draconian fleet entered the solar system, casting a dark shadow across space like a living storm. The Draconians, a ruthless alien race feared, across half the galaxy, had destroyed dozens of planets, crushed entire civilizations, and laughed while doing it. And now they were coming for Earth. News of their movement spread quickly, and across distant star systems, people watched with pity. Earth was young, a recent member of the Galactic Council, and still considered primitive in many ways. The Draconians didn't see it as a war. It was a warning to other species. Earth had spoken too loudly, too boldly in recent council debates, and now it would burn for it. 500 warships, black as obsidian, moved through the void like silent monsters, blinking closer to Earth with each hour. Observers from allied planets watched through long-range scanners, expecting to witness destruction. But then, something strange happened. The fleet reached Jupiter's orbit and vanished. No flashes of light, no sound, no explosions. One moment, they were there. The next, gone. Just like that, no trace, no debris, no energy spikes. It was as if they had never existed at all. Galactic scientists scrambled to explain it. Had they cloaked, entered a wormhole, activated some hidden tech? But the Draconians weren't known for stealth, and nothing about this made sense. Captain Kezareth of the Corlean Watch had been stationed on the outer edge of the system, monitoring everything. His reports were clear and detailed. The fleet had arrived, slowed down, then blinked out. He had seen entire battles before, seen planets fall, but never this. The Council called it a malfunction. Others whispered darker things. Theories spread quickly: sabotage, forbidden weapons, black hole traps, quantum rifts. But none of them matched the eerie silence left behind. The Council sent drones and probes, sweeping every corner of Earth's orbit. They found nothing. Not even a single atom of Draconian metal. Earth itself was calm. No defensive systems had been activated. Their space stations were quiet. Their satellites showed no sign of having done anything at all. Chairwoman Elena Reyes, Earth's leader, made a public statement. Her words were simple. The threat has passed. Earth remains. We welcome peace. But she didn't explain what had happened. Not one word, not one clue. And that silence became the loudest sound in the galaxy. On a frozen base in Antarctica, far from cities and satellites, a lone technician named Arjun worked in a sealed research station. He wasn't military. He wasn't high-ranking. He simply maintained the sensors that monitored seismic shifts and deep Earth signals. That morning, he had seen something on the data feed. A pulse. Deep. Low. Rhythmic. It had lasted 3 seconds and came from nearly 20 miles below the ice, where no one had ever gone. The pulse wasn't random. It was structured, like code. And then, just as it appeared, it vanished. Arjun checked the equipment again. No faults, no errors. The readings were real. He sent a quiet message to his supervisor, expecting confusion or disbelief, but instead he received a simple reply. Log everything. Do not speak to anyone. Someone will arrive. Hours later, a dark, silent aircraft flew over the base and landed. It bore no flags, no markings. Men and women in black suits entered without a word. Arjun was escorted to a separate room. His equipment was taken. His files were copied. But the one thing no one could erase was the chill crawling down his spine. Something beneath the ice was awake. Something that had waited a long time. Meanwhile, in orbit, a Corlean probe hovering near Earth's moon caught a glimpse of something impossible. For just a fraction of a second, barely enough to register, a shape had appeared in space. A ship, sleek, long, blacker than space. Itself. Its surface shimmered with strange symbols. And then, it vanished again. The probe's AI flagged it as a ghost signal, but the data didn't lie. This wasn't a Draconian vessel. It wasn't in any known database. The ship was human, or at least it seemed to be. The signal was erased moments later, as if someone knew the probe was watching, and someone did. In a hidden control center under the Andes Mountains, Commander Dane Voren stared at a screen showing the same footage. Around him, operators worked in silence. The chamber was old, older than any human structure on record. Built into the rock, it had no windows, no doors leading outside. It had been sealed for centuries, maybe longer. Dane didn't speak. He simply nodded. They tried, he said at last. They weren't ready. A technician asked, "Do we alert the council?" Dane shook his head. "No. Let them wonder. Let them fear." Outside, the world carried on as usual. Children went to school. Families watched the stars. Scientists tried to explain the impossible. But deep in the earth, something ancient was stirring, something not of war, but of memory. A memory so vast and hidden that even humanity had forgotten it. Until now. The Draconians had come with fire. They had come to conquer. They had vanished without a fight. And the rest of the galaxy would soon ask the same question. What really lives on Earth? And why had it never shown its true face until now? Ambassador Tholen of the Varn Collective arrived on Earth in a smooth silver diplomatic cruiser that touched down without sound in the middle of a peaceful green field near Geneva, where Earth's United Council held its meetings. But he did not come for ceremony. He came for answers. The mystery of the Draconian fleet's disappearance had become the greatest puzzle in the galaxy. No empire, no weapon, no natural force had ever caused 500 warships to vanish without a trace. Tholen, a careful and respected negotiator, believed in logic and calm words, but when he stepped onto Earth's soil, he felt something strange in the air, like a hidden force watching from all directions. He was greeted politely by human officials, their faces calm, too calm, their smiles too steady. Chairwoman Elena Reyes stood tall beside him, a woman of discipline and pride, her eyes deep with something unreadable. As they walked into the council chamber, Tholen's scanners recorded odd fluctuations in the atmosphere, barely there shifts in gravity and electromagnetic waves that shouldn't exist. He said nothing, choosing instead to observe. During the meeting, he asked his question directly. What happened to the Draconian fleet? Reyes answered without hesitation. They came too close. We stopped them. Tholen pressed further, requesting details, weapons, strategies, defense systems, but Reyes simply replied, "We use truth." Confused, Tholen demanded clarification, but Reyes only smiled and changed the subject. That evening, Tholen returned to his cruiser and reviewed deep scans his ship had performed during entry. The upper atmosphere held strange anomalies, thin cracks in space, almost invisible, like scars in the sky. They matched no known technology. The data suggested that something powerful had bent reality itself for a few moments, right as the fleet had approached. He sent the data back to the Varn Science Ministry under heavy encryption and considered whether Earth might be hiding forbidden technology, something beyond council laws. As he prepared a second set of scans, a warning, alert, appeared on his screen. For a brief instant, just 0.3 seconds, an unknown vessel had decloaked above the Earth. The ship was shaped like a blade, silent and dark, its surface shifting with strange waves, almost like it was made of liquid metal. Tholen tried to lock the image, but it vanished before he could stabilize the view. It wasn't Draconian. It wasn't Varn. And worst of all, it wasn't listed in any Galactic Council archive. He ran an analysis, and the system flagged. The design is highly advanced, unknown origin, possible human signature. Tholen's skin grew cold. He called in a secure report to his homeworld but got no reply. Minutes later, the recording of the unknown ship erased itself. No virus, no trace, just gone. Something, or someone, had reached into his systems and removed it. Now, fear crept into his thoughts. Earth was supposed to be new to galactic travel, still learning the basics of space diplomacy, yet they had removed a deadly enemy without a shot, smiled calmly, and then hidden everything perfectly. It wasn't the strength that scared him. It was the silence. He met with Reyes one last time before leaving. "If you don't tell us the truth, the Council may act against Earth," he warned. Reyes stood near a large window overlooking a lake, her voice soft. The truth is already acting, Ambassador. You only need to listen. That night, the Earth sky flickered again. Observers on distant moons reported strange flashes of light near Antarctica, but satellites showed nothing. In a frozen lab far below the ice, the technician Arjun now worked under silent supervision. His regular reports were reviewed, erased, and stored elsewhere. He asked no questions. He had learned it was safer that way. Deep under the facility, a new set of vibrations started, slow, steady, and rhythmic like a countdown. No one spoke of it. The military presence grew stronger. Outside the public eye, human ships with unknown engine types began testing in low orbit. The Council probes tried to get closer, but each time they were blinded by sudden data loss or harmless, unexplained errors. Tholan's final report to the Varn Collective was short but clear. Earth is no longer what we believed. They are not hiding power. They are hiding truth itself. As his cruiser left Earth's orbit, his sensors once again caught a strange reading. A shape appeared above the clouds, not a ship this time, but something vast and formless, like a shadow cast across the stars themselves. And then it was gone. He didn't record it, he didn't scan it, he simply stared and left in silence. Somewhere deep below the Andes Mountains, Commander Dane Voran watched it all through encrypted channels. In front of him, a display flickered with shapes and symbols, not seen in the galaxy for tens of thousands of years. One of his aides whispered, "Should we continue the masking field?" Dane nodded. "Yes, let them guess. We've already started the listening war." The aide hesitated. "What is that, sir?" Dane looked toward the glowing glyphs on the ancient stone wall beside them, their edges pulsing softly with light. "The listening war is not fought with ships or guns. It is fought with secrets, silence, and memories, and we remember more than they know." Across the galaxy, powerful races debated their next move. Some wanted to invade, others feared doing so, but none of them truly understood what Earth had become, or what it had been all along. And while they watched, while they listened, something older than war itself began to rise. The emergency chamber on Arkan Prime, heart of the Galactic Council, buzzed with tension as holograms of leaders flickered in and out around the great circular hall, each representative demanding answers about Earth and the vanished Draconian fleet. Yet no one had them, and that made the fear worse. Some believed Earth had used a secret weapon. Others feared they had awakened something ancient, and a few dared to wonder if Earth had never been what it claimed. Ambassador Tholan's report stirred the flames even more, especially his final words. "They are not hiding power. They are hiding truth itself." One by one, old files were pulled from archives, and among them was a file so old it had been marked as corrupted and sealed away. Protocol Sentinel. It detailed a time centuries ago, long before Earth had joined the Council, when early probes sent by the Andari Empire had picked up strange quantum pulses from Earth's surface. At the time, humans had no space technology, only primitive cities and basic machines, so the pulses were dismissed as sensor malfunctions, recorded as a joke in historical logs. But now, as those same patterns were detected in the strange anomalies, above Earth the Council realized something had been missed. Something big. A request was sent to the Corlean Watch to recheck those ancient sensor logs with modern tech, and what they found made even the bravest commanders fall silent. Those same pulses had appeared every few centuries, always faint, always brief, like a heartbeat under the ground, and always before a major galactic event. Earth had not been sleeping. Earth had been listening. On the other side of the galaxy, Commander Dane Voran stood in a dark, shielded chamber beneath the Andes Mountains, staring at an ancient metal door covered in dust and faded symbols, untouched for over 200 years. With him were 2 soldiers and a scientist named Mira Ishan, who had studied the old records of Earth's lost programs. Mira unlocked a small terminal beside the door and entered a code known only to a few top members of Earth's hidden command. The door slid open with a low hiss, revealing a long tunnel lined with old cables and stone that had been melted, not carved. At the end of the tunnel was a chamber containing a glowing orb floating in the air, the last remnant of protocol, Aurora, a secret project buried after the Great Silence of 2093. Dane activated the orb, and a hologram shimmered into view, showing Earth's first recorded contact with an alien species, not in the year 2060 as the public believed, but in the year 10,247 BC. The beings who came then were not conquerors, not visitors, but travelers, seeking a final place to sleep. They were called the Orcs, beings of light and knowledge, whose bodies carried memory like water in a stream, and they were dying. Earth had welcomed them, not with cities or machines, but with thought. For early humans were not as primitive as history claimed. The Orcs did not build great towers or teach humans to use metal. Instead, they hid themselves within humanity. Not by force, but by merging, slowly, gently, over thousands of years. They faded into human DNA, into dreams, into stories. The Orcs became memory. Earth's hidden programs had known the truth for some time, but the knowledge was too dangerous to share. If the galaxy learned what Earth truly was, not a child among stars, but a vessel of forgotten gods, war would follow. As Dane watched the last moments of the Orcs' memory play out in flickering light, he understood what had happened to the Draconian fleet. They had approached too close to a mind that remembered things older than stars. They had stepped into the path of Earth's silent defense, not a weapon, but a memory system designed to protect the final archive of the Orcs. That defense, hidden deep in Earth's crust, had activated the moment the fleet crossed a hidden line. It hadn't fired missiles or lasers. It had rewritten the fleet's presence out of space-time using dimensional folding and memory collapse. The Draconians hadn't been destroyed. They had been erased. Mira stepped closer to the hologram, her face pale. "We didn't evolve the way we think," she whispered. "We were shaped to carry something, maybe even to become something." Dane nodded, saying nothing. Outside the mountain, the world continued its daily life, unaware that deep beneath their feet, the truth of humanity's past was breaking through the soil like roots in search of air. Across the stars, the council met again. Some members now feared Earth beyond reason. Others demanded open war. But a few, the oldest among them, sat in silent understanding. One of them, the Zilari elder named Vostar, remembered a time long before records were kept when star systems vanished from the map and memory itself failed to record their names. He stood slowly and said to the council, "This is not the first time something like this has happened. We once called them the Silent Ones, but they were not silent. They were listening, always listening." Back on Earth, as the sun rose over the Pacific, Dane activated a signal from Deep Sight Kappa. A quiet pulse went out, undetectable to common sensors, but its meaning was clear. The memory engine, hidden for thousands of years, began to wake. Its lights flickered in patterns too, fast for human eyes. And one by one, across the planet, those who had always felt different, those with strange dreams, memories of places they had never been, and thoughts they could never explain, looked up at the sky, not in fear, but in recognition. They were not alone. They had never been. The Orcs had not simply come to Earth. They had planted themselves in it, like seeds waiting for the right season to bloom. And now, as the stars turned and the galaxy watched, Earth was remembering, and memory once awakened could not be stopped. The memory engine pulsed beneath the Earth like a heart made of light and time, hidden miles under the crust where no machine should exist, where even the strongest sensors from space could not detect its hum. And yet, now that it had been activated, its influence began to rise like heat through stone, reaching minds before machines, touching thoughts before alarms. In every part of the world, people started dreaming the same dreams. Strange visions of stars collapsing, of silver-skinned beings whispering to the oceans, of cities made of glowing crystal buried beneath forests long gone. And though none of these people had met, and most had never spoken of such things, they began to feel a quiet understanding, as if something inside them had finally woken from a deep sleep. Mira Ishan stood beside Commander Dane Voren in the control chamber of Deep Sight Kappa, eyes fixed on the orb at the center of the room, which now hovered higher than before, rotating slowly as symbols appeared across its surface, glowing in soft gold and shifting like waves of thought. These symbols were not from any known language, yet Mira could read them as clearly as if they were etched into her own memory, because they were. She had begun hearing voices in her dreams, soft and kind, not words exactly, but impressions, emotions, whole ideas pressed into her mind like sunlight through leaves. She wasn't afraid. She felt more alive than ever. Around her, the room was changing. The walls, once plain metal, now shimmered with light patterns, activated by the engine's growing presence, and through every screen and cable, data flowed faster than anything humans had designed. The engine was not just awake, it was learning. Or, perhaps, remembering. Mira looked at Dane and whispered, "We were always meant to be more than we are." Dane didn't respond at first. He was watching a large monitor where the faces of the Galactic Council stared back from their distant stations, their expressions filled with alarm and fear. They had intercepted fragments of the pulse, had seen the rise of the engine's signal, and now they were demanding answers. One of the council voices shouted through the speakers, "You must shut it down now. This violates every treaty." But Mira stepped forward calmly. "You never wrote a treaty with what came before," she said, and then she sent a short stream of symbols through the council link. Not a message, not a threat, just a single memory. The image of a world, not Earth, but like Earth, filled their screens. A world that had once shone bright with life and knowledge, then burned, then vanished, not destroyed by war, but by forgetting. The council fell silent. Somewhere in space, a lone scout ship from the Archon system tried to get close to Earth again, armed with new sensors and shielded probes, hoping to study the energy spike from orbit. As it passed beyond the moon, its instruments flickered, not offline, but sideways, as if space itself had shifted. The stars changed shape. Time stretched. Inside the ship, the crew saw a brief image flash across their viewports, a face, human but vast, ancient, with eyes made of galaxies. And then the ship reappeared, safe, unharmed, but now orbiting Neptune, thousands of kilometers off course, with no memory of how it got there. Earth had warned them without firing a single shot. Back underground, the memory engine expanded. Again, its orb splitting into a slow spiral of light, forming an intricate pattern that hovered in the air like a flower blooming in slow motion. Mira felt her thoughts pulled forward, not controlled, but invited. And for a moment she saw Earth as it truly was, not just a planet, but a seed bank of knowledge from a time before this galaxy was even formed. The Orcs had hidden their memories in the core of the planet, woven into gravity, stone, and water, storing their culture not in machines, but in life itself. And humans, the final phase of their plan, had been shaped to carry it, to protect it, and when the time was right to release it, that time was now. Outside the mountain, strange weather patterns began to form. Not storms, but light winds that carried voices, scents of unknown flowers, soft music that faded when approached. Animals gathered in unusual places, silent and watchful, as if they too felt something important rising. On distant listening posts across Mars and Europa, coded signals began to appear in deep space. Echoes of Earth's engine reaching beyond the solar system, tapping into old networks no one had used in millions of years. Some council members now panicked, believing Earth was sending a call to allies unknown, preparing for war. But the truth was far stranger. The engine was not calling for war. It was calling for memory. Across the galaxy, hidden stations built by the Orcs long ago began to stir. On the forest moon of Riala, an ancient stone suddenly glowed beneath a tree. On the edge of the Drax Nebula, a tower once thought to be lifeless blinked with light for the first time in 300,000 years. The memory chain had reconnected. Humanity had triggered the forgotten protocol not by force, but by being ready to remember. And with every new pulse, Earth itself changed. The skies shimmered at night. Oceans glowed in lines of bioluminescent, patterns shaped like star maps. And people everywhere began to feel as though they knew things they had never learned. Names of stars, old songs, meanings behind lost symbols. But not everyone welcomed the change. High above, hidden in a black stealth craft, an elite strike team from the Varn Collective floated in orbit, sent to destroy the source of Earth's rising energy. They had orders to fire a singularity bomb directly at the Andes Mountains. But when they targeted the coordinates, their systems refused to lock. The targeting AI glitched, screens showed false coordinates, and then one by one the soldiers began to see visions. Not nightmares, but memories of a time before their species had formed, when the Orcs had guided the building of early galaxies. The soldiers froze. The bomb never launched. Earth never fired a shot. The memory engine did not defend itself with force. It showed the truth, and that was enough. In deep sight Kappa, Mira placed her hand near the engine's spiral, and her voice echoed through the chamber, not loud, but clear. The protocol is not a weapon, it's a question. Are you ready to remember who you really are? And the galaxy, shaken by silence, began to listen. Far beyond Earth, at the edge of the known galaxy, where the stars thinned and space grew quiet, a faint signal pulsed through the black. Not a noise, not a wave, but a pattern older than time. A single line of memory traveling faster than light, faster than thought, moving across hidden pathways left behind by the Orcs when they first folded their minds into the heart of Earth. And as this return signal reached its ancient destination, a buried receiver beneath the surface of a forgotten moon awoke with a low hum, lighting up for the first time in over 1,000,000 years, releasing a soft blue pulse that echoed across the void. And that echo was not a call, but an answer. Back on Earth, Mira Eshan stood at the edge of the engine chamber in deep sight Kappa, her hand hovering just above the spiraling core of light, her eyes wide as lines of glowing code scrolled across her pupils, not displayed on any screen, but imprinted directly into her thoughts, knowledge of how the signal had traveled, where it had gone, and what it had reached. The engine was showing her more now, giving her glimpses of what lay beyond Earth, places where the Orcs had once settled, failed, or disappeared, places where their memory remained locked in silence, waiting, and now those places had heard Earth's voice and were replying. Commander Dane Voren stepped beside her, holding a datapad that had gone blank the moment the return signal arrived, its systems overwhelmed by something they couldn't process. "We just received something," he said quietly. "Not a message, a presence." The lights in the chamber shifted slightly, forming shapes like wings, stars, and faces, none human, but somehow familiar. The return signal wasn't just data. It was an invitation, or maybe a warning. Somewhere deep in the Pacific, another part of the memory engine activated. Beneath the ocean floor, far below even the deepest trenches, an ancient structure lit up with soft red glow, unseen by human eyes for thousands of years. This was Core Node Delta, a piece of the Orcs' memory network once thought lost to time. And now it had connected again. As the network grew stronger, people across Earth began to experience strange moments. Flashes of memory not their own, sudden understanding of languages they'd never studied, dreams where they walked on other worlds and spoke with voices not theirs. A child in Kenya sketched a map of a star system no human had charted. A teacher in Japan woke up speaking a forgotten dialect of the Orcs. A farmer in Brazil heard music that hadn't been played since the stars were young. The return signal was rewriting silence into memory. But not all reactions were calm. In orbit, the Galactic Council's emergency fleet arrived. 5 cruisers, 3 dreadnoughts, and a command ship led by Admiral Kiros of the Tathari Dominion, a stern man who had spent his life studying threats and destroying them. He had no love for mystery. When his ships approached Earth, their sensors failed to lock again, just as they had for others. Visual contact was unstable. AI systems lost track of direction. Even the stars looked different. Kiros growled, "They're jamming us with some kind of field." But a voice from one of his technicians said, almost whispering, "Sir, it's not jamming. It's displacement. Reality's folding around Earth." Kiros ordered a strike plan. Disable satellites, target surface command centers, force Earth to explain. But before he could give the final order, a light filled his ship's command bridge. Not from outside, but from within, soft, gold, and pulsing with rhythm. And then silence. No one moved. A projection appeared before them, a figure tall and thin, made of shifting lines and light, its face gentle, its presence ancient. It didn't speak, not with words but with memory, and in that moment, every officer on the bridge saw a vision of Earth, not as it was, but as it had been, as it had held the dying minds of the Orcs, cared for them, protected them through time, pain, and darkness. They saw the truth. Humanity had not become strong by war, but by carrying the weight of memory others had forgotten. The Orcs had not chosen Earth by chance. They had chosen it for its silence, its patience, its ability to hold life and protect what mattered. When the vision ended, Admiral Kiros stood frozen. His war orders deleted themselves from the system. The ship's weapons powered down. For the first time in his long career, Kiros whispered, "We are not the judges here." Back in deep sight, Kappa, Mira felt a shift in the engine. It pulsed once more, stronger than before, and the air seemed to vibrate gently. She turned to Dane and said, "They're not just answering, they're coming." Dane's face remained calm, but Mira could see the tension in his hands. "Are they hostile?" She shook her head slowly. "I don't think they know how to be." Then the skies began to change. Across the globe, people looked up to see the stars realign, not moving physically, but bending through the sky like waves in water. A thin line of white light appeared above the earth, stretching like a thread pulled tight. And from that thread came a shape, massive, slow, and elegant. It was not a ship in any known sense, but a structure, like a cathedral made of starlight and thought, folding into space above the Pacific Ocean. The Orcs had arrived, or at least, what was left of them. Their forms were not physical, but memory-born, shaped by the minds that called them. They hovered above the ocean, touching nothing, saying nothing, yet all of Earth felt them, and they were not alone. Across the stars, similar lights began to flicker as other hidden nodes awakened. Distant cousins of Earth's engine waking from sleep. Not all races understood. Some grew afraid, others awed, but none could deny what was happening. Something older than war, older than history had returned. Earth had remembered. Now, the galaxy must too. And in the silence that followed the return signal, a new question grew louder than any threat. What happens when memory becomes real? Above Earth, the sky shimmered like liquid glass as the massive shape of the Orcs memory vessel hovered silently over the Pacific, its presence alone bending gravity, light, and time in ways no one could explain. And as it floated in the upper atmosphere, every sensor on Earth failed to measure it. Every satellite lost track, and even thoughts began to tangle near its path, like reality itself was uncertain where it ended and the ship began. In deep sight Kappa, Mira Ishan stood with Dane Voren and a small team of scientists, watching the memory engine rotate faster than ever before, glowing with colors that hadn't existed the day before, as lines of code danced across the air and sounds without source began to hum through the walls. It was happening, the final protocol. Mira had been seeing it in her dreams for days, pieces of a truth that didn't want to be spoken but shown, a truth older than any alien fleet, older even than the Orcs themselves. Around the world, people stopped what they were doing as visions, filled their minds, not forced, not like mind control, but soft as memories, like something finally allowed to be remembered. Children cried without knowing why. Elders stared into the distance, recognizing something they thought forgotten. And far away, the leaders of the Galactic Council sat in silence as the return signal from Earth became more than a message. It became understanding. Then the truth unfolded. Mira didn't speak it aloud, but it echoed through her mind so clearly that she knew it had reached every human alive. The Orcs had not come to Earth to hide. They had come to finish what they started. Long ago, before the stars even cooled, they had created a network not of machines, but of minds, living beings seeded across the galaxy, shaped slowly over time, with thoughts designed to carry knowledge, memory, and purpose. Earth was not the last node. Earth was the central one. The others were fragments, scattered backups. Humans weren't protectors of Aurak's legacy. They were the legacy. Their creativity, their instinct to build and question and dream, had not evolved by accident. It had been guided, carefully, gently, not controlled, but nudged, by quiet patterns written into the gravity of the planet itself, hidden beneath DNA, folded into the frequency of Earth's magnetic field. The Aurak's hadn't just died. They had transformed. They had poured themselves into the memory lattice buried in Earth's core, giving up their physical forms to become thought itself, and waited for humanity to reach a level where it could carry them forward, not as servants, not as hosts, but as equals. And now that time had come. The Aurak ship above the ocean opened like a flower made of light, and from its center poured a stream of shimmering shapes, beings of memory not solid, yet not ghosts. They touched the water, and it glowed. They moved through the air, and clouds changed shape. They didn't speak, but everyone on Earth could feel their presence, soft like music you remember from childhood. But there was more. Beneath the revelation, another truth waited, darker and heavier. One Mira had feared ever since the engine activated. Humanity was not alone in being shaped. The Aurak's had not been the only ancient power that seeded thoughts into the stars. There had been others, rivals, enemies, and one of them had followed the return signal. It had waited, hidden in the dark spaces between galaxies, for the Aurak's to rise again so it could crush them once and for all. Deep inside the memory engine, the patterns twisted, flashing warnings that no one had seen before, shapes that bent. Wrong, colors that didn't belong, lines of memory breaking apart. Mira stumbled back as the engine pulsed harder, trying to block something, seal it away. But it was too late. A crack appeared in the air. Just a thin ripple at first, like heat rising from a road, but it grew quickly, and through it came a sound that made no sense. Laughter without joy, metal without machine, hunger without mouth. The rival force, known only in fragments as the Null, had arrived. It wasn't a race. It wasn't a fleet. It was unmemory, a force that devoured history, erased thought, turned civilizations to dust by making them forget they had ever been. It didn't fire weapons. It didn't invade. It simply whispered. And when it did, your past vanished. Your name dissolved. Your purpose crumbled. And now it had found Earth. The Aurak's responded at once, pouring more light from their ship, forming a shield of living memory around the planet. But the Null struck fast, creating holes in the sky where stars vanished and space went quiet. On the Moon, outposts disappeared from all records. On Mars, whole archives turned blank. People on Earth began to forget small things, names of streets, faces of loved ones, even how to speak certain words. Panic spread, but Mira stood firm. The memory engine was not a weapon, but it had one final task. Dane looked at her, pale and shaking. If we do this, there's no going back. Mira nodded. We're not going back. We're going forward. She placed both hands on the engine, and it responded with a hum that turned into a roar. All. Across Earth, humans felt a pull, not physical, but emotional. The strongest memories, the core of what made them who they were, rose to the surface. First love, lost parents, long roads walked, music that saved a life, laughter after sorrow, hope in darkness. These memories became light, and that light poured into the engine. The Aurak's added their own, not just the past, but the entire idea of what they had been, what they could be. And the engine did something no one expected. It broadcast all of it, not as a weapon, but as a song. A pure note of memory, so deep and beautiful that even the Null trembled. And as the song grew louder, the cracks in the sky closed. The forgotten became remembered. Lost cities blinked back into time. Erased names returned. The Null tried to flee, but memory wrapped around it, not destroying it, but anchoring it, making it known, and once it was known, it could no longer hide. And so, it faded. Not dead, but changed. The threat was gone. Earth stood in silence. The sky cleared. The Aurak's ship dimmed its light, no longer hovering as protector, but as companion. Humanity had not just remembered, it had saved memory itself. The council ships backed away, unsure how to respond. Admiral Kiro spoke to his crew in a whisper. "We are standing in front of something older than time, and it wears the face of Earth." On the ground, Mira stepped away from the engine, now calm and still. The lines of light faded, but something new remained. A quiet connection between all humans, a soft awareness of each other's presence, not control, not shared thought, just knowing they were part of something bigger. And as the stars returned to their places and the earth exhaled, Mira whispered the final truth. We were not made to fight. We were made to remember. And the universe, no longer silent, listened.